Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this session, I'd like to talk about a couple of sort of current affairs debate panels, I suppose you'd call them, discussion panels, where they were talking about the mass migration and anyone opposed to it or questions it as a Nazi, the normal stuff there. But there was some concession, I suppose, to maybe it's not working as well as we'd hoped. Maybe we can do better. So the argument really, or the discussion went along that, well, there's nothing wrong with mass migration, just a little bit of fine tuning, just a little bit of tinkering at the edges, and that's it. And I tell you what, a fucking paradise awaits. We are talking Nirvana. We are talking a land of so much milk and honey that oh wow. I mean, I'm getting a hard on thinking about it. So that was the thing. Now, what is this fine tuning they're talking about? Well, that's a little bit more vague. As with most things, when the globalist talking points begin, nearly all of it's pushed by just pure assertion. We know that things have to change. We know that we need mass migration. We know that we need climate change policies and legislation. We know that we need gender this and race that. Do we? Do we know that? And of course, none of the interviewers really push back or question this. I mean, I would. Okay, you say that we all know that we need mass migration. Why do we need that? And then the lies come up. Well, we've got an aging population. So, but what this fine tuning really is the issue here. There is some concession that, well, there's nothing wrong with mass migration. We just brought in some of the wrong people. That's all. And if we just correct that, then everything's fine. Now there are some people, usually fairly rare or occasional. Some people may say, well, why don't we just bring in, for example, if it's to Britain as a case in point, why don't we bring in first world educated people or people with recognised first world qualifications that speak good English who have skills that are needed? Now that's instantly decried as being, well, only Nazis would do that. I mean, are you Hitler or something? I mean, fuck. When that's eminently sensible, of course. But the idea is we want to keep the mass migration. We want to make sure it's black and brown. We don't want white. We want it black and brown. But we're just going to recategorize these illiterate peasants and say that they're all rocket scientists. And then that means we are getting the right people. So rather than actually solve the problem, they're doing what they've done previously is saying, well, all these people that are coming in are all engineers and doctors. So that they want to go one up now and say, well, they're all rocket scientists, and try and push it off. So, but again, they're very skinny on facts, saying, okay, well, so these third world impoverished countries where the average education is two years at a primary school, and where most people are illiterate in their own language, then why are you claiming that there's a huge source of rocket scientists from there? They don't even have a rocket science. They barely have a tertiary education system, and it certainly doesn't teach rocket science or anything like it. So why are you asserting or claiming or believing or trying to convince us that rocket scientists will come from those sort of places? They won't. Then there's some vague mumbling. Oh well, India's got a space rocket. India's got a space program. And I said, well, okay, all right then. So we're talking one of the poorest countries on earth that has gazillions of people dying in the street, where walk over dead bodies. Also has a space program. What, you want to take away their space scientists? I mean, like where are you going with this exactly? And that's very much an elite game. They've got a caste system there where 5% of the people sort of run the place and make things to suit themselves. It's outrageously corrupt. And what exactly are we going to get from India and so on? So they're not able to articulate this. But what was interesting is, as far as I can tell, the mass migration people realised that mass migration isn't working, so they have to remodel it and restyle, if you like, remarket it, even repackage it, for goodness sakes, as something else. So I think their next gambit and their next deceit, the next treacherous deceit, will be claiming that these people are rocket scientists, and they'll try and talk up one or two rocket scientist people and say, well, there you go, see, mass migration is working. Now, if we look at mass migration in its totality, it's got nothing to do at all with skills, nothing to do with skills. At the very outside, about 5% of the mass migrants to the first world, and again, that's generous, 5% are actually qualified at something, and they speak the language, have needed skills, and that they'll integrate. The majority of them are white, so the proportion of brown, black people that want to come to the West and integrate and have desirable needed skills is very small, a tiny proportion of the total. The majority are just welfare parasites and passengers and family reunion and chain migration and all this sort of stuff. They're not people who've come to integrate, far from it. And even after 25, 30, 35 years in the country, they still can barely speak a word of English, hang around in their own ghetto communities and so on. So mass migration, as the globalists have forced on the West, has been one of the most outstanding failures. I could have told them that at the beginning. I believe any informed observer could have said, look, this is not going to work unless you have integration, quite strict integration policy. You've got 5 years to learn English to senior high school level, and if you haven't, you're going to have to go back, or you won't be eligible for government benefit, something like that. But the integration rates, very, very low, and the sort of person that does integrate, the urban living, they've learned English at school as a minimum. They've got first world professional qualifications, and so on and so forth. They're the people where the integration rate's very high, and so those are the people you focus on. But there's only a small number of those people in the whole world. This idea there's hundreds of millions of rocket scientist geniuses running around all clamoring to come to the West, that's absolute nonsense. The amount of people that have those sort of qualifications, have that ability to integrate, truly international citizens in that regard, it's a very small percentage of the world population. Even in the first world, it's not, it's fairly restricted. And in the third world, or the middle level countries, it's not. There's again fairly small numbers in the third world. The numbers are pitifully small. So where there are surplus populations, places like India and Africa and so on, Pakistan, those people from those places are the least likely to integrate, and least likely to want to integrate. They arrive in the West to take, not to give, and not to share, but to take. And they don't want to integrate. They believe their cultures are spiritually and morally superior. So why would they integrate? Why would they even try and integrate? The idea of integration is laughable to them. And they come from very low trust societies where, to cheat and exploit others is considered to be a skill. You're a heavy hitter if you can go around cheating everyone else. More the fool them for being cheated, that type of thing. And so when these people from a very low trust society come into a very high trust society like the West, then they just see us as a bunch of naive people just begging to be exploited and cheated out of whatever they can cheat us out of. And they do. But this is the repositioning now, that it's not doctors and engineers anymore, it's rocket scientists. That's what the illiterate third world peasants are going to be billed as. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.